Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, Say What's Real TV. This review is for Tyler Perry's Sistas, Season 6, Episode 21, Lose to Win. So we open up the episode exactly where we left off last week with Gary going to Hayden, taking him information that Tamara has been playing in his face the whole time, sent over there by Fatima. Last week, Hayden said he was going to destroy Fatima. Now all of a sudden, he's second-guessing everything and asking Gary, is he sure? He don't believe it. Gary's telling him, when you get to work, talk to Fatima about it, or just go in the house and ask her all about it, as if she's really going to tell you, right? So they go back and forth. He wants him to hurry up and get this annulment, which I don't understand why Gary is so adamant about Hayden getting the annulment. But what it really boiled down to is Gary had his spot all blown up with Andy and Penelope, so he over there miserable and he wants some company. That's all it is. Hayden is over there happy with Tamara and he has to make sure he is not the only one lonely. So Hayden called him out on it and says that's the reason he's really doing all this. So of course Gary denied any of that. Some kind of way he ended up calling Tamara a garden tool, a 304, and Hayden checked him on that. And Hayden got tired of going back and forth with him eventually and told him, look, you need to find you another tax attorney, get off my property, and he dismissed him. So Hayden, he goes in the house, slamming the door, huffing and puffing. So Tamara, she comes out like, you all right? You don't look all right. So he says, do you know Fatima? Fatima Wilson. So Tamara, she's standing there playing the game, looking clueless, saying, I don't know who that is. Then she says, oh, that's the lady from your job. And Hayden was like, oh, so you do know who it is. She says, I heard you on the phone with her. And I'm like, we had to sit through a 10-minute scene of him introducing Tamara to Zach and Fatima, but now we're going to sit here and act like it never happened. So Hayden tells her that Gary hired a private eye and got all kind of information on her. And she didn't even blink her eyes. She was unbothered. And she said, been meaning to tell you about him. And I thought she was getting ready to say that Gary was trying to holler at her or make a pass at her or something. And she's basically told him that Gary doesn't want to see him happy. So Hayden, he finally talking with a little backbone and telling her, look, I want answers because I think you're lying to me. And, they going back and forth. He tells her if he find out that she was lying about knowing Fatima, it won't be good for nobody. All hell's gonna break loose. So I guess she thought it was still good to threaten him about leaving and never coming back. Hayden wasn't fazed. He was like, good. We can finally get all this over with. Come sign these annulment papers. So they go back and forth about that. She finally started to match his energy and told him she wasn't signing nothing with his short, scrawny ass. She told him she was taking half of his money. And he said, oh, so you did this? She said, on purpose. He said, oh, I know you're slow, but did you forget I was an attorney? She said, no, I do know a little bit about marriage, and told him how she know all kind of attorneys. She know plenty of them, and she done effed them real good, and they willing to do anything she asked them to do. And he said, oh, you that person? She was like, yes, I am. So he asked her again, do you know Fatima? And she told him, no, I don't know her. But she told him, with your weak ass, what I do know is you need to go to work because we need that money. Child, Tamara walked off, leaving him standing there looking all crazy in the face like what just happened. So we see Sabrina meeting up with Miss India, her boss from the bank, and they do the whole greeting thing. And Sabrina actually thanks her for talking to the DA on her behalf. So Miss India had to let her know that her bosses were real reluctant in letting her have her job back, but I guess she finally convinced them to do so. So she told Sabrina, we're going to put you at the location downtown where it's much busier, but they pretty much figure she can handle it, and asked her could she start work on Monday. Sabrina didn't have any problems with that. So Sabrina asked her, what about Maurice? And she told her they're not bringing him back. Even though she may feel he's innocent, she couldn't convince her bosses that he was completely innocent because he did know Q. And he had them all up and through his house. And she said, look, one day you'll see that he is partly responsible for all of this. Maybe not for the robbery, but the circumstances leading up to that, which is true. So, Sabrina, she's feeling bad. That's my best friend. He's going to be devastated. She says, I know you're sad for him, but, it is what it is. And not only that, he had a whole lot of complaints. through the bank. So Sabrina asked her, were they planning on telling Maurice? And she told her no, but she can tell him. She said it was something to do with liability issues why the company wasn't going to tell him. And Sabrina begged her once again, like, can you please just try again? And Miss India said, look, I feel sorry for him. I know that you care about him, blah, blah, blah. But look, the decision has been made. It's final. He can't come back. So we go over there to the law firm where Zach and Fatima are anxiously waiting for Wesley to come give them the verdict on what the judge said about Michael. So Zach, he's in a panic and Fatima's trying to calm him down. So he gives her his usual speech. And then we see Wesley. He basically lets them know that things didn't go well in court with the judge. So Wesley told him there was nothing on file from DCF on Michael. The judge also did not want to hear what Miss Cheryl had to say for whatever reason. So Zach asked, does he know how bad it is? And he was like, yeah, he knows how bad it is, but there's nothing he can do because there's no proof. And he said, even though you're the father and you're saying these things, we don't have the evidence, so it's going to take some time. So they realize that they have to get the evidence on their own. And Wesley says he knows someone that works down there. I guess he's talking about DCF. And they're going to start documenting everything going forward. Zach trying to rush the man like, when? And Wesley was telling him, Zach, I know this is hard, but basically trying to tell him to chill out. So he reassures them that they'll get him. It's just going to take some time. And they're still rushing like, is there anything we can do? Anybody we can call to put a fire up under this? And he says, I just need the two of you to be patient. So Zach says, well, that's easy for you to say because it's not your son. And Wesley looked at him like, that doesn't mean I don't care, Zach. So Zach, he did apologize to Wesley for having an attitude. He just said it was a lot going on. And Wesley apologized for the situation as a whole. And Fatima told him, make sure you call us when you get more information. So Wesley leaves and Zach is highly upset. But Fatima's telling him, look, they'll figure it all out. So she's trying to comfort him when all of a sudden here comes Hayden. So he comes in there screaming Fatima's name. And they're like, what is your problem? Fatima telling him, look, today is not the day for all of that. He was like, oh, so you like playing all these games, these messed up games? And they both looking at him like, what are you talking about? He was like, both of you. He just keeps saying over and over, you like playing these games. I know that you know her. I know that you set this up. Never saying Tamara's name. Never exactly saying what the issue was. Just keep saying, I know you like to play these messed up games. So Zach is like, somebody better get him before I get him. And then Andy walks up and she was like, get out of their face. So Hayden told Fatima that she done opened up a can of worms and that he's going to get her back. And Zach is 2 seconds off his behind, so they have to convince Zach to just go home and not fight again like he did the last time. So they basically kick him out. So after Zach leaves, Andy asks Hayden what is his problem. Hayden accuses her of being in on it too. And she's standing there like, what are you talking about? Just like they were. And he says, just know this is not over. It's about to hit the fan. Things about to get crazy. Andy told him, do what you got to do, Hayden. He said, I will. So he walks off and Andy asks Fatima what was that all about. Fatima was like, well, I guess he knows, but she really doesn't care because she says that he started it. And Andy was like, well, you know how petty he is. This is not going to be good. Fatima still didn't give a damn. She said he better leave her alone after the day she's had. So Andy was like, well, let's just get back to work. And all of a sudden, here comes Jordan. So he was there to pick her up for their lunch date, and she didn't realize that she had lost track of time. So he asked her, did she want to reschedule? She said no. So he was admiring the office, and she said, one day I'll have my own. A little foreshadowing, and Jordan, he didn't doubt it at all, and the two of them left for lunch. So we see Karen and Brian, and they finally make it to this building he wanted her to see so bad. But we learned that they actually stopped and got lunch on their way to this building. So she gets inside and she's looking around and she says, it looks like it needs a lot of work. And I don't know, for some reason, I was under the impression that the building was ready for her to move in right away. It was turnkey. But he tells her that it'll take 4 months for him to get it up to code and fix everything. And Karen was okay with that. So she brings up the cost and the down payment amount and all of that. And he says, don't worry about it. I told you I know the owner. He might can work with you. So for whatever reason, Brian tells Karen that she reminds him of his mother, and she was like, in what way? He says because, she's hardworking. She worked 3 jobs. She owned her own home. She took care of them. But I'm like, well, you don't even know Karen. Have you even seen Karen work? I mean, Karen was barely doing hair when she had a shop to do hair in. But anyway, he's talking about taking her to meet his mom one day. And I'm like, for what? Why does Karen need to meet your mama? This not a love interest, hon. No, sir. You are married. Take her to meet your wife. How about that? So Karen, she thanks him for everything and tells him that he's a good guy and that his mom raised him right. And he said, yeah, him and his brothers. So he tried to be slick and low-key ask her if she had a man or not by saying, I don't know if you doing this alone or not, but I think you'll be good at it. He tells her that he thinks she'll be a good mom because she's very attentive. She pays attention. And he basically wanted to know if the father was around. And she was like, he's around sometimes. And I guess he felt some kind of way about that and tried to play it off talking about, oh, well, I was just saying, me and my wife, we can help. And I'm like, oh, now you want to throw the wife back in there. So he says that they love kids and that Karen can lean on them. And she told him maybe she'll take him up on that offer. He then asked Karen about a realtor, and she said she knows someone she can call to inquire about one. So he said he'll go and get his guy on the phone while she make her phone call so they can start working things out. So we see Fatima calling Zach, checking on him after he has already left the law firm to make sure he was okay. He said he was fine and that he was headed home. So his phone rings and he tells her that it's Karen, and she was like, well, go ahead and answer it. He says, no, I don't want to answer it because I don't feel like dealing with her energy. So Fatima is telling him, look, she's been nice lately, just go ahead and answer. So even though he didn't want to, he clicked over anyway, and all Karen wanted from him was a recommendation for a realtor. So he mentioned Shady Val and told her he'll send her the phone number for her. So their call ends. I mean, it was nice and sweet. Karen didn't want nothing else, so he clicks back over to Fatima. So he tells her she just wanted a number to a realtor, and Fatima wanted to know was she buying a house. Zach says he didn't ask all that. He just thought it was strange that she was extra nice. So Fatima was like, well, you just make sure you get her that number because we want to keep her in this nice space. So we see Sabrina going over there to see Maurice, and she's telling him all about her meeting with Miss India, and he's getting excited for her and talking about how he getting ready to go get him some new clothes because he thinks he's getting ready to start. So he was like, well, what's going on? You should be celebrating. It's congratulatory. So don't come over here with no bad news. And she had to tell him, look, they don't want you back. So Maurice, he was devastated by the news and he wanted to know what was said. And she mentioned how Q was all up and through his house, and there was also some complaints. And then he was shocked that the customers were actually complaining about him at that job when he know doggone well he was in there acting a plumb fool at times because we saw him. But he felt some kind of way, he said, because they didn't even have the decency to call him and let him know that he wasn't getting his job back. He then started to blame Q, but in reality, Maurice, you were hunching up on Q. You had Q in your house. Q robbed the bank that you were working at, so it made it look like an inside job, sir. So any bank would probably let you go, to be honest. In addition to the complaints, it just made it easier for the bank. So Maurice mentioned that he might start selling his milkshake, and Sabrina told him to be serious. He said, I am being serious. You come in here and tell me I lost my job. I haven't even processed any of this. I don't know what I'm going to do. So Sabrina considered giving him a referral and realized she's no longer manager. She is now an assistant manager at this new location downtown. And Maurice was like, damn, you done got demoted? And she says that's because they already had a manager at this particular location. So Maurice told her, look, you do what you got to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And he says he's getting ready to sue the bank. Sabrina told him he should just let it go, take the unemployment, or just apply to a different branch. Maurice wasn't having it. He didn't want to hear any of that. He's like, no, they can't fire me for no personal stuff. And then Maurice vowed to never be that stupid over Peter again, ever in life. So Sabrina basically just told him, look, you're my best friend, and no matter what happens, I'm always going to be here for you. He thanked her and said that, that meant a lot to him because of all the stuff that they've been through. So we get to Jordan and Andy, and he's surprised that she picked this particular spot because it didn't have any tablecloths. And she said it was really close to the job and she didn't want to go too far. She says she's not who people perceive her to be. And I'm like, yes, you are. She says she does like the tablecloths, but she also carries hot sauce in her purse. And I'm like, well, what that got to do with anything? You still bougie, child? So Jordan, he brings up the night before and told Andy she handled everything well. He knew it had to be painful for her and wanted to know if the two of them, meaning Andy and Gary, were serious. And I'm like, did you not hear Danny tell you and the crowd that he proposed to Andy and gave your sister the same ring, which is impossible? But we'll let it go. We'll let all that go. But anyway, she shakes her head like, yes, we were serious. So he brings up Penelope wanting to talk to Andy again, and she's still not sure she's ready to do that. So he says that she has a lot of questions. Andy wants to know what about. So he says that Penelope is a data analyst and she keeps receipts. She has facts and dates and knows how much money every dollar spent in her head, and she puts it on the calendar. And I guess basically she just want to line that stuff up to make it match, make it make sense. So Andy says she is also going through something and it's hard for her to even wrap her head around the fact that she hadn't got played all this time. She says she will talk to Penelope. She just needs time to process everything. So they switch gears and he asks her to go to dinner with him later on to a more classy-based restaurant, one with candles. And, they have their little cute, lighthearted moment, and then they end up leaving. So we go over there to the airport, and Tony catches up with Danny, and she's expressing how she may not have a job soon because of how slow it's been. And he told her she can always come work where he is. She tells him no because it's a conflict of interest. And I'm like, Danny, girl, don't do it. Do not do it. Don't hunch this man and then still got to be working with him because you'll fall out with somebody real quick. So he asked her, has she already been at lunch? And she had, and he was kind of disappointed that he missed out on that. And she thought it was all precious and cute or whatever. And he was like, well, would Preston be okay with that? And she told him that it was over. He asked her, was she sure? She said yes. And he said, well, that means I can ask you out on an official date. So he asked her, did she want to do the one-on-one or did she want to do a group thing? She said she wanted to do one-on-one. So they agreed to do dinner, 8 o'clock. He'll pick her up and she's going to send him her address like she do everybody else. The last person she sent the address to was Q. So then Sabrina calls Danny and she asks her what happened with her meeting. And she tells her that it went well for her, but Maurice is not getting his job back. So Danny tells her, he'll get another one. Like, he'll be all right. She mentions to Sabrina that Tony asked her out on a date and that she plans on going. And Sabrina wanted to know, does that mean you're done with Preston? She claims that she was, but she gave this look as if she really wasn't sure. So Sabrina, she mentions that Rich called her and the two of them were supposed to be going out for dinner and wanted to know, did Danny want to do a double date? Danny lied and told her that Tony said he wanted to do one-on-one. I'm like, Danny, why are you lying to Sabrina about that? If you want to be by yourself with Tony, just say that. And side note, when are we going to see Sabrina and Rich have their one-on-one camera time? We keep getting Danny and Tony, Andy and Jordan. It's time for Sabrina and Rich. Every time you turn around, Sabrina is like, oh, Rich called me a few times. Oh, Rich called me. But where Rich at? But I digress. So as Danny is telling Sabrina that lie that Tony said he just wanted to be the two of them, she gets a picture message and she says that it looks like congratulations are in order because Preston is now a married man. So Sabrina, she's in disbelief and Danny's standing there like she just want to bust out and cry. Well, Danny, I don't know what to tell you, but Preston is being petty for one. If he did go and marry Mindy, it is what it is. But we know that Preston does not love Mindy the same way he wants to be with Danny. So he's just basically ruining Mindy's life and she's allowing it. So hey, if they like it, I love it. So Andy, she gets back to the law firm and she comes in the door and she's strutting her stuff and she's skinning and grinning and waving to people. Then she spots Penelope. She says, what the hell are you doing here? And Penelope is like, look, I'm sorry for coming to your office. I just want to talk to you. Andy told her, look, I just told your brother I wasn't ready for that yet. And she was like, please, I just need to talk. So Andy was like, well, let's go somewhere. And then out of nowhere, here comes Gary You two going somewhere? And the episode ends there. Child, what is Gary even doing at the law firm? Hayden done cut him loose, so why is he there? I don't understand. What did you guys think of this episode? Drop down in the comments and let me know what your thoughts were. I would like to wish all of you a happy holiday, and please, you guys, stay safe. As always, thank you for watching. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you all, and I'll catch you next week for this highly anticipated season finale, because I'm ready for it. Peace.